It's resin time. Okay, so I want a resin pocket over here. This does have some dry rot on the other side here. So if I can cut that away, that would be best. So I'm going to put this something like this. Note to all you YouTubers out there, when you want to show something, turn the camera on. Hi everybody, hopefully everybody's having a good week. So yeah, this is the first resin bowl. It's important to remove loose bark. Actually, if you talk to a lot of people, they say to get rid of all the bark completely. So that's what I'm doing here. Just pick tools and flat tip screwdrivers, you name it, whatever you've got at hand to get rid of that loose bark. Try to do the best job you can to get rid of it, including blowing it out with an air hose. Mold release is important, so I'm told. Okay, so I've never done resin before, so this is going to be a learning experience. But this resin is a 2 parts A, 1 part B mix. So unfortunately, I don't have a really large container, so I'm going to use this and of course measure it out with, I do have these smaller cups, but unfortunately I don't have the big mixing box. So anyway, I don't know, I'm just gonna add a bunch of here and till I get kind of what I want. And after I pour this back into the cups, I'll just give this a quick wipe out and do the gold in here too. It's all gonna get mixed in there anyway. So I have watched a bunch of videos from Kim Tippin and from Doug Moore from Pole Barn, Zach Higgins. So, I've done a fair bit of research into this, and hopefully this works out for me. The only thing that really kind of concerns me is that burl has a bit of dry rot in it, and I probably should have stabilized it first, but I don't have enough stabilizing resin to do so. So I'm hoping that this will be all right. I promise I will get a proper measuring device. Yeah, so definitely looking for a gold and blue type mix in this. Ironically, it ended up being mostly blue than gold. I did put more blue in, so and I think a lot of the gold is hard to see. And as I see on a lot of these resin pours, you usually don't make enough, and that was the case for me. If you're curious, there's a link in the description for this pressure pot. It's California Air Tools. Really nice big wing nuts on it too. Yeah, it's hard to see here, but I actually, it's 60 psi is what I put in the pressure pot. Okay, so they say 24 to 36 hours in the pressure pot, and it'll be done, hopefully. Okay, so it's been 36 hours, and you know, I'm kind of nervous to open this thing up. It's like Christmas morning, you know. So anyway, let's release the pressure on this. It's actually held pressure really good. So in 36 hours, it's dropped about a half, yeah, about half a PSI. So I'm pretty happy with this pressure pot. Okay, here we go. Wow, did that ever sink? Well, it's cured. Let's get that rock out of there. Don't need no 5-pound weight. Just get yourself a rock. All right, so I was hoping that this would actually stay up a little higher than it has, but you know what? I'm good with it. I've still got probably a good solid 2.5 to 3 inches of the blank that's left. I'll just turn this away. It's got deep cracks in it anyway. So hopefully this mold release has worked. And I can get this out. Sure. Yeah. Sure feels solid anyway. Oh, oh, oh. Something's happening. Ha! Success. That was easy. Okay, you ready? That's surprising. The resin isn't cured. Well, what that's all about. I guess I'll have to just put it back in the room with the heat, and hopefully it cures. See that? Really surprised by that. This stuff here, this is actually really punky, and it looks like it's rock hard. Yeah. Maybe it's just got to sit for a little bit longer. Oh well, we'll see what happens here. Okay, so our blank is finally ready to turn. Had to wait a couple extra days because I screwed up. When I poured this resin, my shop was about probably 15 degrees, and it needs between 20 to 22 degrees Celsius. That's 70 Fahrenheit. to activate the resin for it to work properly. So when I pulled it out of the mold, it was quite soft. So the last couple of days I put it over the heater in my clean room, and it is now hard as a rock. And of note, when this went in, of course the resin was above here, so this is probably 3/4 of an inch that it's actually, this block has absorbed that resin. And there was a lot of punky spots on the top of this, and it is rock hard. So that's great. Let's get it on the lathe. Yeah, so my original plan was to put a waste block on the bottom of this and then grab it with the chuck. But you'll see later on that I end up changing my mind. But I thought I'd show you the process. This cut-saw sanding / carving disc is a new addition to me, and it worked great. I used a lot of flat sanding discs on my grinder, and I'm hoping that this is going to eliminate that. Yes, I'm using Gorilla Glue here. I'm assuming that these two are compatible. So anyway, I thought I'd go ahead and use it. But once I get it mounted between centers, I change my mind. And fancy rock. Again, on the lathe, first time I've ever put a gouge to resin. This stuff here seemed to be probably really, really hard. And I literally found pieces of this resin 20, 25 feet away from the lathe. And you can see it's kind of fracturing off. So yeah, I'm just trying to feel my way around this, trying not to be aggressive, hoping that I'll be able to use the 5/8 bowl gouge by David Ellsworth. It almost resembled turning stabilized wood. That's my first impression anyway. So yeah, working on the bottom of the bowl, what I figure is going to be the bottom of the bowl. And like I said, like I've never turned epoxy resins before, so this is all, I'm just kind of feeling my way along here, and hoping that I don't get some devastating catch or whatever. I just didn't want to see this thing come flying off the lathe. Yeah, the resin certainly was hard on the hand, and that's why you see me wearing a glove. Yeah, so I thought I'd switch to the Easy Wood finisher here, just to give that a try and see if I was getting better cuts with it. And it worked okay. I would say probably a little better than the gouge. But eventually, when the bulk of the resin was gone, the gouge seemed to be better on the outside profile anyway. Seemed to get a cleaner cut. And I'm doing shear scrapes there. I don't know if you notice that little void. Eventually I turn that away, so it's not an issue. So yeah, so far things are going pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the gouge and with the Easy Wood tool finisher. And, push cuts, pull cuts, scraping cuts. I'm trying to determine what's going to work best on the outside of this. And again, keep in mind, like, this is the first time I've ever turned resin, so it's I'm just trying to figure it out. Yeah, I got the lathe stop, checking out my progress, and overall I'm pretty happy, pretty pleased with it. But yeah, it was then that I realized, I'm just going to cut the tenon onto the actual piece of burl. It's just going to be better. So yeah, I decided to get out the Starbond thin and use the accelerator just to fill in any little holes. Um, I just want to take care of them now. I'd sooner do it now than all at the end. And when it blends in with the resin, you don't even hardly even notice it. So yeah, I'm shear scraping the surface, which by the way was the most effective way to cut the resin and the burl. So if you're not using shear cuts, make sure you should start. Parting off the waste block that I didn't need. And then just finishing it off with a handsaw. Okay, so I've got it turned around. It's being held by the tenon. And so far so good. It feels pretty much like turning normal dry burl. You definitely can feel that resin pocket though when you hit it. I did have to sharpen more often than say turning just normal burl. You can see I've got the thickness, kind of the rough thickness um, defined there now. And yeah, I'm just trying to hog out material and get this down to a workable size. Yeah, overall, I would say it was easier to do the inside than it was to do the initial roughing of the outside of the bowl. Doing, again, I'm just feeling my way. Pull cuts, push cuts. What is seems to be cutting the surface better than the other thing. Dry burl is not a treat to turn anyway, so I knew that this was going to be a tough thing to turn. And I'm back to the easy wood tools, the finisher. Checking for thickness. And it seems to do a good job on the inside. I'm happy with it. Okay, so I got to call it the way I see it, and I'm impressed with this epoxy. There is a ton of voids down in here that got filled that I really didn't think would. There are a few left behind, but Starbond says that you can take your pigment and just grab a little bit of it, and I'm just going to drop it in these holes here. I'm only going to use the thin stuff. I don't know if you can see that or not. So when that solidifies, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell the difference or not. I'm also along here, this is, I'll call it dry rot. It's hard, but it's not hard enough. It's going to be an issue when we sand. So I'm going to saturate this with the thin sag glue to stabilize it. And I'm probably going to let this just sit overnight. We're getting late in the end of the day here anyway. But I want to just go around and fill in any of these little areas. Sorry about that, the camera died. I'm not real concerned about little cracks and voids in here. It's a burl, they usually all have them. Pretty rare that you don't get a burl that doesn't have some sort of issues with it. Let's do this right here. See what it looks like after. Pretty good. I don't see no bubble. Okay, I'm assuming this is going to get smoky. Again, the fumes that come off this are very toxic, so use it in a well-ventilated area. Yeah, what I should have done with that thin CA and the pigment was mix it in a separate little cup, and till you get kind of the same depth of color as what was in the bowl, and then pour it in the cracks. There we go. I'm going to leave that overnight, and we will try and finish this up tomorrow. Anyway, I thought I'd just do a quick little fridge kiln update. If you haven't seen these on my channel, make sure you check them out. Anyway, this is the third batch of bowls that have come out. A lot of maple, a lot of real character maple too. Spalted, some wormy stuff, and of course, walnut. Anyway, I thought I'd just let you know that everything is working great. So yeah, the next day I've got it mounted back on the lathe, just doing some pull cuts, and then eventually I'll be doing some shear cuts on the outside again, just to trim away any of that unwanted CA glue. Yeah, I can't stress it enough. Those shear cuts, that long cutting edge on that swept back grind is really, really effective at shear scraping. The resin, the wood, everything was all cut cleanly with it. Back to Easy Wood Tools finisher. And again, I went back and forth with it. It did a real good job as well. Yes, finally on the sanding, using the 3.5-inch nipple discs from sandpaper.ca. I think it started 60 to 400 initially. Just sanding trouble spots that I can see, and then just blend it all in. And this was a new experience too. Like I'm just trying to, I don't know how the sandpaper is going to cut the resin. Is it going to be better than the wood? You know, a lot of unknowns for me. Yeah, on the outside of the bowl, it was a little tight to get the drill in there, so I'm using a right angle air-powered sander, and it does a good job. Getting real. And the other thing too is the jaws on the chuck are sticking out there, so you want to keep your hands away from that. Yeah, 400 grit. Yeah, ironically, after I turned this bowl, after the first coat of finish went on, my my order from sandpaper.ca came in, so I didn't get a chance to use the higher grits. Just having a look at things, and I'm pretty impressed. That's at 400, and I'm actually pretty happy with that. And of course, there is a link in the description for 10% off your next order. Just use code InlayGym at checkout. Back to the air sander because I just couldn't get in there. Yeah, make sure that you always wear a respirator of some sort. Yeah, using 4-0 steel wool here as kind of a final surface prep before I put the solid bowl finish or the wood bowl finish on. Okay, I'm sticking with what I know. Wood bowl finish by General Finishes. My only concern is if this finish is gonna react with the resin in any way. There is some soft areas in this. Hopefully this finish will harden them up. I do really like the pearl in the resin. Beautiful. This is probably not going to take a whole lot of finish. But we'll see. Those soft areas are going to have to get hardened up. So just in those areas alone, I might have to take 3 or 4 coats of this. And then the rest of it will just be, probably just 2 coats really. Wow, do I like that. Didn't get a whole lot of gold. That is pretty. All right, so anyway, this is going to go into my clean room. I'll leave it overnight. I'll put another coat on tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. All right, so it's the next day, and I wanted to do some observations here. This is really, there's quite a texture to it. This is quite soft. This is the area that I stabilized with the thin CA. It would have been really, really bad if I hadn't done that. But regardless, it's still going to be dull from the rest of it when the second coat goes on. So I think I'm just going to, these areas where it looks to be really soft and dull, I'm just going to hit that with the finish to probably a couple of times and then do an entire coating on the bowl, and then I'm thinking that that's it. Now, this is the other side of that soft area, and the resin has actually penetrated that and hardened it. So if this had been maybe an inch thick when it went into the pressure pot, it probably would be one solid mass. I know that you're supposed to stabilize burl, especially if it's got some soft punky areas in it like this. But I'm actually really impressed with what it did on this side. And I mean, that pearl is just cool, man. Totally love it. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and get these get these dull areas a little shinier than what they are, and then do a second coat. Okay, so I've put 2 more coats just down in these little soft areas. So I don't think it's going to get any better than what it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and second coat the bowl, and I'm thinking that it's probably going to be the last coat, but we'll see. And again, this is wood bowl finish by General Finishes. And I've used 4-0 steel wool before applying it. Sorry, my arm's in the way of the light. So I had no issues with that first coat drying. I know that others have had some issues with the solid bowl finish drying, but I think that's got something to do with humidity. Wow. Okay, so after the second coat went on, I left it overnight. Hopefully the camera's picking this up, but you can see this streaking here. And I'm going to go ahead and put on another coat of finish. I think what might be happening is the wood bowl finish that I had in the bottle is actually probably starting to cure a little bit. So I'll get a new bottle of finish, or new can of finish, and strip this off of 4-0 steel wool and then do an application and see if it stops this streaking. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do next. Yeah, so I'm also going to take some denatured alcohol and wipe it out before the next coat as well. I don't know if this has any bearing on it, but it's certainly, it's not going to hurt it. Yeah, this wood bowl finish, it's no different than any other finish. The longer it sits around in the can, you know, it's going to cure. So that's why I like to put it in these smaller squeeze bottles. These are like half-liter bottles. So I tend to actually lose less of it by splitting it up and then putting some sort of a barrier on the top of it to prevent the oxygen to getting to it. Finish preserve, Bloxygen, one of them. There, that looks good. Mind you, it looked good when I put it on the second time too. There, it's on there nice and even. Let's hope that it dries without any streaks in it. Sure looks good. I'll know later on. Okay, so I've put 4 coats of the wood bowl finish on here, and I don't know what the deal is with that. Hopefully the camera's gonna pick that up. You see them streaks, and you know, most people probably say, well, that's fine, but it's not for me. It's driving me nuts. So I gotta fix it. So hopefully, I don't know if you can see that or not. There, see them? I know it's shiny. Anyway, I'm gonna try and buff with white diamond, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to strip this off and I'm going to put lacquer on it. And if that doesn't work, then I'm going to strip that off and I'm going to put a friction polish on it. All right, so it's a little better, but it's still not good enough. Again, I don't know if the camera can pick that up or not. You gotta hit it right at the right angle. Off it comes. Denatured alcohol. Okay, so this is what I'm using. And this is the second coat because, well, I forgot to turn the camera on for the first one. It hasn't been a good week, folks. It hasn't been a good week. Come on, go this way. Just making sure I got it all. it is very easy to put on too much. So I'm just going to let that rotate a little bit. Hopefully it'll harden up and I won't have any runs and sags. And hopefully that will be the last coat. Okay, so the second coat of lacquer is now cured and it's the next day, so I'm pretty darn happy with that. There's some lines in there. After I get the signature on, I might do another coat on the bottom and then do the whole thing again, but you know what? It's pretty good now. Anyway, let's get the bottom done. So yeah, I'm using my vacuum chuck that I always use to do the bottoms of my bowls, as long as they don't have any holes in them, so I can draw a vacuum on them. Yeah, I just thought I'd finish it off here with the Easy Wood finisher. And I sanded the base from 120 to 400. Yeah, and I just want it to cover the bottom of the bowl first. And just blend it in with another coat. Well, that's it for this week's project. Bring you in here for a last little look. Again, this is designer epoxy, and this is blue pearl, and there's some gold pearl in here too. I think maybe a lot of that probably got turned away. There might be some gold in this area here, but it's darker, so it's a little hard to see against that piece of wood. Inside. And of course the bottom. I'm going to put another coat of lacquer on this before it's all done. You know, I got to call it the way I see it. This designer epoxy, it's actually pretty good stuff. For the first time ever using epoxy, other than screwing up in the beginning, all these videos that I've watched over the last few months involving artisans and epoxy, heat is the enemy. So in the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, well, I'll mix it up in the shop here. It's cooler in the shop. That way, when it starts to heat up, that it's actually going to be, you know, it's not going to get any fracturing in it. But in reality, it needed at least 20 Celsius or 70 Fahrenheit for it to actually activate to work. So that's on me. That's not the company. After I got a hold of them and they told me, yeah, just move it into a heated area, it'll be fine. And sure enough, it did. The one thing that really surprised me about it is this thing is full of voids. There's probably 100 cracks and little voids, and you know, virtually that epoxy filled almost all of them. Now, is that because it's got a long open time? Is it because it sat in the shop here for an extra day, allowed the resin to flow into those areas before it cured? I don't know. Is it just because it's a great product? I don't know. I've never used it before. I'm not affiliated with them. They are a Canadian company, so you know, I just thought I'd give them a go. And you know what? I'm impressed. I'm going to call it the way I see it. Finishing. So I went with the wood bowl finish that I do use for all my projects, and I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it's reacting with the epoxy. There was some streaking on there, so when it went on wet, it looked fantastic. But when it dried, it would dry with those little streaks in it. So maybe the answer to that would be to use an abrasive paste afterwards. I don't have an abrasive paste, so I couldn't use it. I decided to go with the lacquer after that, the Waitco stuff, and you know, the only real issue with the lacquer, especially in the sprays, you got to be really careful. It's very easy to get runs and sags. So I'm going to give this another coat, and then I think this will be done perfect. I might buff it with some white diamond afterwards. I don't know. I'll have to play it by ear, but I got to get this video done. So anyway, let me know what your thoughts are. Things that you think I can improve on with the resin. your idea on the wood bowl finish. I don't know. It's just I was really surprised. I thought that I wasn't going to have any issues with it, but you know, and it's probably not the wood bowl finish. It's probably the reaction between the two of them. That's what I'm assuming. But the lacquer is fine. So anyway, let me know down below what you think about that. The good, the bad, the ugly, all that good stuff. And of course, anytime you can give my videos a thumbs up, that certainly helps with the analytics. And don't forget Instagram and Facebook at Sprague Woodturning, and the links down below to Starbond and sandpaper.ca. Oh yes, and don't forget about our 15,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. This is walnut with mussel shells and copper pipe. When I hit 15,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick a name and I'll ship this worldwide. You just need to subscribe to my channel. And that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Any of your comments, any and all comments are certainly welcome. And next week we'll probably come back with another resin project. So till then, take care, stay safe, and don't forget about that bell. You'll know when I put up a new video. See you next week.